Hi everyone. So, this past Monday, was the 15th anniversary of my daddy's passing. Why is that important here? You know, when we lose a parent, anyone lose a parent, that's never an easy thing, right? That is what made you disappearing, almost. Like, that's what it feels like. In that moment, that's what it feels like when it happens. However, it is the natural order of things, right? Most of my family began passing when I was a teenager, and that was very rough for me. I've experienced a lot of loss. I experienced a lot of loss before I ever even had Deacon, you know. The reason that it's a little more difficult these days is because of the way his unexpected passing has been exploited 15 years later. This one trauma that we all experience. I mean, well, obviously not everyone experienced that. But in the natural cycle of life, it's already a trauma. But I didn't deal with it well in the first 6 months, maybe, he was gone. Time does, though. Time doesn't take that pain away, right? Time is not going to bring anyone back, but it does put you at a little bit of a safer distance from the moment of impact of the trauma. It makes it a little bit easier to be able to reflect. And the most important thing that I tell, and I have a certification in bereavement and grief counseling as well. And the most important thing that I tell anyone who's suffering loss is to celebrate them. Celebrate them. Keep them alive. I'm not particularly religious person. And nobody's ever told me this, but after he passed away, I could still now I give my father most of the credit, 99% of the credit, for keeping me very strong, especially in these last 3 years. I'm not sure they ever really leave us, to be honest. I mean, I don't know. I don't know, but I don't know because I've never died. I'm still very much alive. But I can feel my father's strength. I can feel my grandmother's resilience inside of me. I can feel my auntie's compassion. I can feel my granddaddy's stoicism. I think when one of our predecessors is called back to wherever it is their spirits originated, or whatever you want to believe, I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, anyone could be right. I have no idea. I would never judge anyone's religious beliefs. In religious conversations, in every religious conversation pretty much, I know that I am very much the student in that conversation, especially when someone's telling me about their own religion. And I love listening to that because it's just so beautiful to watch people's faces when they talk about things that they love and what they're passionate about and their things that give them purpose. That's so, like, it's very inspiring. And I love to learn. But it has become a little bit more difficult these last few years because his passing was used, very much exploited, to create this even bigger trauma, which has been the abduction of my babies, especially Mona. For anyone to use something already so painful to create a situation that is even more painful. "15 years later, I feel like we should all be able to heal. We should all be allowed to heal and move on from all of our traumas. So for another living person to bring that back up and then use the loss of my daddy to separate me from my life force, just my children." And I'll link the annulment. The reason that, if you haven't seen any of the other videos, this is the first video you're coming to. You need to go watch all the rest of them. But how they exploited his passing was that my dad was handling my first divorce, me and Travis's divorce. He was my protector in every sense since the moment I was cut out of my mom's belly. And no man has ever made me feel as safe as my father did. And I credit him for making me strong and filling my bucket of self-worth up so full before I was even 10 years old that it honestly hasn't mattered. That of the million holes that life has tried to drill into it, and we should all do this for all of our daughters. Absolutely. I just couldn't be more grateful. Oh, so going back. The reason his death was exploited was because he was the one who was handling Trav and I's divorce. Travis and I both signed the final decree of divorce. We had already been separated for a year. My dad was paying for the attorney. And, I was the only child, Daddy's little girl. He was like, I'm going to make sure that my dad. And I didn't know. I didn't know anything about divorce. I was 24. Oh, I was 25. Travis and I both signed the final decree of divorce. And both Travis and I assumed that it was done. Right? We signed it. Okay, we're done. And my dad was doing the running between Zoe and Broccoletti. And unfortunately, my dad passed away unexpectedly before those papers could ever get turned in. And we didn't know. I had no idea. Me and Josh remarried. I remarried Josh a year after my dad passed away. A year and a couple months. I had no idea I was still married to Travis. Travis didn't know. Nobody knew. So it was right before the 12th anniversary of his passing. That Josh, my husband of 10 years, father of my child, Janet Naderman, his lawyer, after I become disabled and so sick, Josh knew this, decided to use that mistake, that clerical error against me. And that was how they were able to annul the marriage. Because technically, I'm still married to Travis right now. I haven't talked to him in like 2 years. We are still married. That's my husband. Yep. And people have asked me, why don't you call Travis? And they reach out. Well, first of all, I have reached out more than once. I've reached out a couple times. And I think in the last year, I've reached out twice. No response. But, I mean, I was kind of just reaching out to catch up. It wasn't really, I would never reach out and be like, hey, it's wifey. That would be incredibly weird. As he divorced me literally almost 17 years ago. Like we've been divorced. It's such a unique situation. So bizarre. Should not be allowed. But to use something so traumatic as the loss of, a parent or protector, to then take someone, I want to talk about insult, injury. It's just trauma on trauma on trauma. I don't know. But this is why we need change. We need reform. We need better laws. We need better education in public schools about how our judicial system works. We have a fundamental flaw in our courts, and I'm going to tell you what it is right now. That flaw is, I did 12 years of public school, okay? And I was actually a pretty good student. That flaw is that the only people who are so familiar enough with the inner workings of our judicial system to be able to not have those workings used against them in a very criminal and illegal way. So we have criminals in our courts, criminal lawyers. I'll link the website below. I had a whole bunch of them. The flaw is that there's two groups of people who are very, very, very familiar with those laws and those rulings and those rules and the procedure and everything. And I'm going to tell you that very two specific groups of people. Okay? Group number one, we got lawyers and paralegals. They're very smart. They know everything. They went to school for this. Okay? They were trained to do this. You know how you were trained to do your job? And you do it better than someone who wasn't trained. And the other group is chronic criminals. There's a reason that people in jail cells figure their stuff out together. The problem is that lawyers and paralegals and chronic criminals really only comprise a very tiny portion of us, of the public, of the people. of our population. I'm pretty sure about 95, 96% of us are neither attorneys or chronic criminals. Just regular people, you know, trying to live our lives. But you shouldn't have to go to law school just to hug your babies. That's insane. This whole thing is insane. We need to heal. We need to move forward. I'll never stop fighting. I'll never stop fighting. And thank goodness I have my daddy's spirit with me every moment, keeping me so strong. I hear him. In my head, I hear him. James, you got this. No one said life was going to be easy. Suck it up, buttercup. I hear him. He was so amazing. He was tough and firm, but also very loving and supportive. I mean, and I was kind of like daddy's little girl. When he passed away, everything got scary, but I had friends and I had family and I had a huge support system during those times. And that's why we need funerals. That's why we need bereavement services. That's why we need support. One of the biggest predictors of future PTSD from trauma is how large and how effective your social support system is. Any therapist will tell you this. These last 3 years, it's been me. And dogs and everything. Me and the dogs. But yeah. I thought I should make this video for the courthouse kidnapping page because I'm going to be talking about this for years, right? It's been almost 3 years. We haven't even really begun like the true healing process yet. Because the psychological assault, the emotional assault of Jana Naderman and Leilani Adams' crimes is still happening. There's still so much trauma, so much destruction, and not just for me, caused by these women and their crimes. And one abusive ex-husband. Malice can be very powerful. We live in a very scary world, very dangerous. My father always made sure I knew who I was. And it's because of him. That's why I'm still here today. Absolutely, 100%. 15 years later, still saving my life. Just from being amazing. Those first 10 years of your daughter's life are so important. And I'm so grateful. I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky that mine was filled with love and safety. Because the only reason that I know right now at this juncture in my life that love and safety even exists is because of those ingrained memories from when I was so little and I was in those very formative years, my neurology. It's so important. Safety. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you didn't see the name playlist, I don't actually have a name right now per the United States government. I'm not allowed to make money. Because because it's annulment. And you know what? I'll go ahead and link that playlist too. But if you'd like to support my content until the IRS says, hello, American-born citizen, I'm sorry that we put people in the courts to abduct your children. And now we're not allowing you to make money or anything else. You are not allowed to exist. It was weird. Like, okay. Nope, can't go there. Anyways, so if you would like to support me support me, my content, all of this, until the IRS allows me to collect my earnings, my Venmo and Cash App handles are both Just Another Jamie, and that is spelled Jamie. And I'll put my PayPal in the description. And I'm just so grateful for everyone. Even if you're just sending me your very best wishes, you have no idea how grateful I am for you. I promise you this. We're going to be strong. We're going to get through it, right? That's what we do. Thank you guys so much. And I'll link the website below too. And a couple other videos.